days. I was tired with no energy for 3 weeks. I had to sleep all the time. And I could sometimes at night, I could not breathe well.
Oh.
And I had the other strange symptom. My feet got all red, turned red and itchy. It was itching so much I couldn't even sleep at night. It was, and they call that COVID foot. It's part of the syndrome. So, yeah, I was very lucky. People my age, you don't want to get this.
Yeah.
No, of course.
Oh, thank God it passed. Thank God it passed. Yeah,
Thank God.
It's so.
That just froze at the end, Khaled.
Yeah, I was
Khaled,
just
you
saying
froze
it's.
time.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying it's so random and unexpected. Who gets what and what symptoms happen. It's totally misunderstood or not understood.
Yeah. Well, if we know history, we know humanity has gone through these kind of challenges many times. This is our turn, and hopefully we will do well. We will meet it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks God. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, are we?
Yes, this 5 minutes. Yeah, we were just waiting for a little bit of time for people to come, and
sure.
especially they were praying because it's exactly the prayer time.
It is.
So, yes.
Right. People coming back. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So Khalid, 1 more minute, or should we start?
I guess you can start.
Okay, I hope we will start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm very happy to see everyone here. We were really waiting for this for several months for Russ Hudson to join us. Good evening, everyone. And we are really blessed today and honored to have Russ Hudson with us to talk about the Enneagram and the current crisis. Gathering the inner resources needed for our time. As you know, Russ Hudson is the leading authority in the Enneagram world today, and he is one of the founders of the Enneagram Institute, one of the 2 first Enneagram schools in the world. Russ Hudson is also a co-author of several Enneagram books with the late Don Rizzo, and among them, really the most noticeable, the most readable, and reference to today, the book, is The Wisdom of the Enneagram. This book is so highly recommended that really, if you need to read just one book and no more time for anything, choose The Wisdom of the Enneagram. Collection of the wisdom. I would say, and I think Russ would agree with that Russ loves Egypt tremendously.
Yes.
I'm saying it because Russ comes to Egypt at least once every year. And he is leading a magnificent group of, I would say, seekers who want to discover the secrets of spiritual work through the deserts and the temples of the ancient relics of Egypt. And really, it's so amazing and inspiring. And I would say it's full of secrets for me, at least. When Russ was saying before the conference something about Egypt, and we were next to the pyramids, for 17 years, being 17 years here, I've never heard of this. And still now, we're talking about the stars and the pyramids. Anyway, we are always blessed to have Russ Hudson in Egypt, and we never miss an opportunity to be inspired by his wisdom and his unique capacity to infuse spirituality with knowledge, with insight, and definitely with deep psychological experiences. Today, after the session, there will be questions and answers. Especially for questions and answers. You know, as Russ Hudson is type 5, and they don't like to be interrupted. So if you have any questions, please put a note. You can even put a note here. We will read it, or for yourself, and then by raising your hand, you can communicate with Russ Hudson. Thank you very much, Russ. We are really waiting for you, and the mic is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that very warm welcome, Natasha. So you'd like me to speak for about an hour and then have the Q&A, or speak shorter?
Yep, that's fine. Pretty nice. 1 hour is as much as you.
Okay, very good. And you can see my very fine New York bedroom here. Let's take a moment before I begin to just collect our attention, to prepare ourselves so that we can have this time together from a deep place. Yeah. So just to take some breath, to breathe a little more deeply than my habit. To relax the body and to feel sensation. Just to really take a moment to feel myself here through sensation. Sensation is wonderful because it cannot be anywhere but now. You can think about all kinds of things. You can feel about things that happened long ago or things that will never happen. But your sensation is only here and now. So if at least a part of our attention is with our sensation, we will be more in the here and now. We'll be called forth to where we can meet blessings. And if I'm doing that, probably my heart becomes more awake, more sensitive. Some of the usual layers relax, and then I can feel what my heart really wants, and my mind can listen so that I can receive some new understanding. And that's for me too. I hope I have some new understanding. Yeah. Thank you. Shukran. So, our whole world is going through a very weird time, right? This isn't just a local problem this time. It's everywhere. We're having countries around the world trying to cope with this, and now there's news of a new disease coming out of China. So we hope that we learned something from the last one, be more ready this time. But we're going through a time of change, and there can be no doubt about that. And like I was saying, sometimes, I was in Egypt during the revolution back in 2011, and that was a very powerful, intense time. But we got through that, and that went around the whole region. But again, this time what's going on is everywhere in the world. So whenever there is a crisis, there's a possibility of doing deeper work. Mr. Gurdjieff was the man who brought the Enneagram to the attention of the modern world, and he did so, over 100 years ago. And he said something very interesting, at least it was interesting to me. He said, when there are great difficulties and everyone else is getting hysterical and acting badly and getting very scared, he said at that time, more blessings and more help go to the people who can remember to be present when everyone else is being crazy. It's kind of like the idea that, you know, the angels will go to work with whoever is available. And I like that idea. And in my experience, it's true that more help, in a sense, is available. More blessings are available when we're able to listen when no one else is listening. Right? So this is a time where we want to learn to listen, to be grounded, and to be much more aware of our heart. Many things that we take for granted, that we assume will always be here, we're understanding now, oh, maybe yes, maybe no. Life isn't that way all the time. So it brings us to a question: what in us can we trust? What in us is courageous and stable and able to be here in the midst of whatever difficulties we face? And how can I be part of the solution? How can I be a help to my society, to the world? Right? These are questions I'm sure that we all have. Even if we don't have them entirely consciously all the time, those questions are around in the back of our mind. Well, what can the Enneagram say about all this? If we're only looking at it as 9 kinds of people, some way of categorizing people, well, not so much. Maybe it'll help me, you know, remember that my friend is a 2, so I should do this or that. But that's not really the basis of what makes the Enneagram powerful, as I'm sure many of you know now. There's been a lot of good teaching in Egypt, and a lot of the deeper wisdom has been coming forth. Each of the 9 types also represents an ingredient, something that can help us, a form of blessing that we can receive if we remember to receive it. When we are busy, caught up in our Enneagram type pattern, in our ego stuff, we don't listen and we don't receive. We're busy from a place of fear and reaction and anger and shame, trying to fix everything, but we have a good intention, but we're not coming from the place in us that can do what's needed. So this is a learning that everybody has to do, and it's not very hard to understand, but it is very hard to remember to do it. You know, one of the great challenges of this work is to remember that these other gifts are available when we remember to receive them, right? So if I like to begin with the 8, 9, and 1. And I do that because 8, 9, and 1 are about the belly, the body. And as I was saying in the meditation, if I'm present, then I'm present with the body. It's not really possible to be present if I'm not present with my body, because my body is here. What would that mean? How could I be present without being present to my body? It doesn't even make sense if you think about it. Yet we live most of our lives maybe doing a lot of things. We could be physically very active, but not necessarily relaxed and present in our body. That's a different thing. When there are difficulties happening, nothing helps us more than coming back to the here and now through our body. Just taking a breath sometimes when we are feeling stress, when we're feeling confused. There are all sorts of complicated prescriptions that people can give you. But just stopping to breathe for a moment and feel yourself here can be very balancing. Simple, and again, hard to remember. I like to think sometimes about how this type in the center of each triad is kind of the anchor for that triad, if you understand me. So if the 8, 9, and 1, that would be the 9. So the 9 is telling us something very fundamental about coming back home to being in my body, where I am, here and now. When I'm talking with people who have a more spiritual or religious orientation, I say now is where we meet God. When we go away from now, we're hiding from God. So when we are called to presence, we're called to prayerfulness, we're called to relationship with God. That's in the here and now, we meet what that is, not our ideas about it. So 9 is the first part. We have to learn to practice breath and relaxing and getting grounded. And we need to do that every day. It won't happen by itself. It seems like it should be easy, yet, but it's really quite a challenge to remember. You can do it right now and notice, because we always think that we're present as we can be. But let's just take 3 breaths together and enjoy them. This God-given breath. It's said that Adam, when Adam was created, God breathed into Adam and brought him to life. So breath is a connection. And just notice, if you did that with us, how you feel now compared to just even a minute ago. You see? And you can keep doing that. You can keep coming back to that. The 9, from this point of view, is the invitation to come home. And it's also being aware that a lot of times we're wandering around in the clouds of our thoughts and our feelings and our memories. That's most people most of the time. But we are invited to come home, where we meet everything, where we meet what's real. And when we meet what's real, we're less scared and we see better what to do. So if we've remember sometimes this invitation, the 8 and the 1 come with it. So if you come home and you feel this grounded, relaxed connection, you also feel more alive. And when we feel more alive, we feel more confident. You can look at little children. I see that we have many ladies in this call. I would imagine some of you are mothers and you have kids. And you just notice when kids have a lot of confidence and they have a lot of life energy, it kind of goes together. And that's like the 8 in all of us. When we are more present in our body, we're not resisting life. We're not fighting ourselves. We're not constricting around our life force, and so it can flow. And when our life force flows, we feel more, as I say, confident. We're more courageous. We can see what we need to do, and we just do it, like good 8s do. We feel empowered. We can say what we need to say, and we can say it with sensitivity. We can put power behind our love and our caring. We can put confidence behind our love and our caring. And in these difficult times, a lot of people are going to need that. And sometimes we will too, right? So it's a way of learning where strength comes from. Where does strength come from? Real strength. Not me trying to be tough and just get through things. But when we have real strength, it's like something that fills us. It fills us with this aliveness, this confidence, this ability to do. And this is the 8 energy. And of course, the risk here, and what we want to also be aware of, is how we can make ourselves very hard. We can, when things are difficult, we can try to get tough and just grind through things. And it's very costly. It's costly to our body. It's costly to our soul. It's costly to our relationships. And so the invitation here is to relax into my life force, into my confidence, to receive empowerment. Right? And it feels that way when it happens. The 1 is very interesting and a little surprising. And when we come home to ourselves, we grow up. We behave like men and women are intended to behave. We don't have to try to. We don't have to convince ourselves. Something in us knows how to conduct ourselves. Something in us is made straight, right? You can actually even feel it in your body. Like when I am more present, I don't want to sit like this. It's like my spine opens up, my face opens up, and I feel more intelligently related to everything around me. I feel part of the lawful intelligence of reality. The ancient Egyptians, by the way, had a feminine symbol for this, which they called Ma'at, which some of you may know about. Right? It's the divine order, the divine intelligence, the divine law. It just was a way the ancients were trying to describe things they experienced as they were trying to recognize the nature of reality on this deeper level. Also, when we have this 1 energy arising in us, we're more naturally honest. We don't have to struggle to have integrity. In fact, it's very hard when we're present to violate our sense of truth. We can feel very quickly when we are betraying ourselves in the various ways we do. So all of this is coming, interestingly, through coming back to the body, to the breath, to relaxing. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but we don't do it. When we come back and begin to notice these elements, you start to feel your humanity becoming more full. So the difficulty with the 1 is this natural alignment, integrity, a kind of purity of heart. When we're not so present, the ego tries to produce it by us being very strict with ourselves, being harsh with ourselves, being hard on ourselves, being very tense. And from there, we can't help as much as our heart would like to. It's innocently the ego trying to produce something it cannot produce. It doesn't come from there. It comes from another place. And so we can all be forgiven for the fact that we try that way. And even if you're not a 1, we all have this issue. It's where we get rigid and tense and lost in our opinions. When our mind when our body is this way, our mind is full of our opinions, and those opinions aren't evil or bad, and they may even have some useful information in them, but they block us from listening. They block us from receiving. In the state of our fixed view of things, nothing new can come to us. So the living part of our soul is kind of constricted. It's bound up, and we're not free in that state. We're not free to follow where we're called to follow, if you see what I mean. So, you know, all of these, every Enneagram type, I think it's interesting to talk about how the different kinds of people, and I'm sure you can recognize when one of these is more of your core, but it's way more interesting when we look at them as pathways of the soul, journeys. They're each a way that we come back to ourselves, to more of the wholeness of what it is to be a human being. So we're moving to the heart center now, which is the 2, the 3, and the 4. And I'm going to do what I did with the belly types and begin with there I began with the 9 in the center. Here I'll begin with the 3 that's in the center. So, you know, it's interesting. 3s, if you ask 3s who don't know anything about the Enneagram, are they a doer or a heart type or a head type? They'll probably guess the heart type last. Because more normally, the 3 is interested in doing and interested in thinking. But truly, the whole secret journey of the 3 is about the heart. Now, the heart has many functions, does many things. It is very important in spiritual tradition, as many of us know. It has a special place. I always remind people, though, the heart cannot do its job without the help of its good friends, the mind and the body. We need all 3. You don't want to be a third of a person. Right? So the part of the heart that the 3 deals with has to do with meaning, the feeling of meaning. Meaning is not an idea, it's a sense. This feels meaningful. How do you know? Is it an idea? Is it an argument? Is it logical? So many things that are meaningful are not necessarily logical. What has worth and value for me? What has meaning for me? How do I find my purpose in this world? All these things we know through the heart. And so that's pretty important. How do we live as human beings without a sense of meaning or purpose? Or in English, we have a word vocation, which means calling. What calls your heart? And it has to do with your big purpose, your deeper purpose. Now, one thing that happens when we're going through a difficult time like we are in now is some of our old ideas about our purpose or what's meaningful to us fall away. I'm pretty sure here in the United States, we've been under quarantine for many, many weeks, months actually. And so people cannot do the things they usually do. They can't fill up their time the usual ways. Many people have lost their jobs. Millions of people don't have work now. So what gives us meaning? What gives us purpose? I'm always telling people our purpose is not a job description. We don't get a sense of meaning from a job description. It comes from our heart's relationship with how we're living and what we're doing. When your baby needs to be fed, it's very meaningful if you're there to be with it. When you need to take your dog for a walk, it's very meaningful. If you're making a salad, if you're there making the salad, it's very meaningful. So there's two, the three is really two parts. One is that as we're living our life coming home to ourselves, we will find meaning in the everyday activities of life. We all know that, but we forget it. In our better moments, we know how that can be. When you're just paying attention to what you're doing, you're making your bed, you're sweeping your floor, you're filing a report, whatever you have to do. When we do our work and we're doing it with presence and with some awareness of our heart, the work doesn't bring the meaning makes the work holy. The heart's involvement is the way that these things are made into something else that starts to change us as human beings. And if we keep living that way, we get better at noticing the deeper wish of the heart. When we're living in that way of heartfully, with presence, doing the work that is our life, we're not having the fantasy that should be having some other life, right? We have this one. We become more susceptible to being of service. We become more able to receive in our heart a kind of knowledge of how we can bring something more to the world. And that's the three journey. Now, when we aren't present and aren't connected with the heart, the three trap is filling up our life with activity, busyness, getting tasks done all the time. And you can feel the difference between when you're doing work and you're in it, and when you're doing work to get away from yourself. You can feel when you're doing work because you're trying to become somebody you're going to be in the future, or some fantasy of who you're going to be in the future. And when you're really with your humanity here and now. And the 9 and the 3 have a line connected to them. This is the mysterious thing. When we're doing our work and our activities from our heart in presence, we feel reconnected with everything, which is to say, reconnected with God and God's will. It's one way we can think of it. The other thing about the 3, I'd say, is that it's okay to not have it all together. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to be vulnerable and feel scared and confused and doubt. We do. So there's something in the 3 about being open and merciful toward our humanity. And this continues on in the 2. The 2 is the part of us that wants to be of service, wants to help, wants to heal, wants to give. It's very beautiful. All human beings, I really think, unless we're pretty crazy, we want to help other people. We don't like to see people suffer. We get overwhelmed because there is so much suffering in the world. And so sometimes we just want to get away from it all because we don't know what to do. But all of us in our hearts want to be of help. We want to love. We want to connect. We know each other through our hearts, right? And you don't even have to talk with somebody. This happens to me here in my city in New York, but happened with me in Egypt many times, where, you just see someone and you look at them and you don't even have to say words. It's like you feel each other's hearts. And in that moment, you know some deeper truth about what it is to be a human being and that we really are connected. It's not just a rumor. It's my experience in that moment. So that beautiful place of heart connection, service, wanting to respond to needs and difficulties in this world, that's the two. That's a beautiful thing. When we're present, that's just naturally how we are. But when we're present, this is the big lesson. We also know how to receive. And we also are interested in caring for our own soul, caring for our own well-being. How can I be my best for you if I'm taking terrible care of myself? And this is not just for twos. I would imagine many of us on this call are in the helping professions, right? Many therapists, coaches, spiritual advisors, you know, people doing that kind of work, helping people. Any of us that have that kind of job, we really need to pay attention to this part of ourselves, because we will, our hearts are such, we will give ourselves away. But if we do that, we weaken the very vehicle that's needed here to provide certain things, right? So it's always, now, you know, it's funny too, when we hear these kind of things, we always think in opposites, like black and white. Well, does that mean I'm not going to help anybody anymore and I'm just going to be selfish and take care of myself? No, it does not mean that. It means finding a beautiful balance, and you find that balance through the presence, through presence with your heart. You can feel when you're doing too much, when you're betraying yourself, when you're not being entirely honest because you're trying to connect with somebody or make a good impression, or perhaps not upset them when actually you need to say something to them. We all know what that's like. It's very normal. And so the danger here is, again, not honoring our human limitations. You know, we are, one wisdom teaching I remember is, because we're made in the image of God, we want to be like God, which is to be generous and bestowing and give blessings. But because we're not exactly God, we have to receive. And so the healing of the two in us is learning to receive. And so if I'm coming home in that way I talked about, and feeling my life force and feeling that honesty and integrity, and I'm starting to find meaning and purpose, I'm also going to recognize I'm receiving. I'm receiving. I was talking with some students the other day and sharing, you know, it's one of the reasons, I'm sure, in Islam, when we pray, our hands are like this. Right. What is that? What does that mean? What is that? That's a gesture of receptivity. It's a gesture to receive the blessing, the wisdom, the love, so that I may be able to do what I need to do in this world. You know, when we look at our religious traditions from the light of presence, we understand all kind of new things about them. They start to mean something new to us. It never fails to amaze me. You know, you have a new appreciation of what these practices we do actually can be for us. It sort of renews them, rebirths them. So the four, I always have to be careful, because when I'm talking about this, you know, I'm going to these places to talk about them from those places, and sometimes some of the places it gets hard to talk. The four is very deep. If we really follow the heart from presence, it takes us to a very deep place of silence. And that's where we meet everything that matters. It's actually in some of the Sufi traditions, it's taught that there is a secret door behind the heart. And the 4 is about that place. It's where we are intimate with God, with Allah. It is where we're intimate with each other and the world. And it is where the beauty of this creation is revealed to us. We start to see what this is that we're in. It's like knowing a secret, or more like remembering a secret that I forgot. And then as I'm breathing and present, I'm filled with a sense of intimacy and beauty and richness. And you know what? It doesn't require anything fancy to have that experience. I can be in my car, somewhere in the Cairo traffic. I can be, just in my dining room. I can be anywhere, laying on my bed, looking at the ceiling. Wherever I am, if I'm present with the heart, then I can see the depth and mystery. And one of the beautiful things about this too, I let go of my stories about myself so that a new story can be written. There's all the beliefs I have about me, what I believe I'm able to do, what I believe I'm not able to do. Even my Enneagram type can become part of that story, where it becomes something that imprisons my consciousness rather than liberate it. So when we come back in presence and to this deep place of the heart, it gently relaxes those old ideas, those old stories of myself, so I can experience myself as the mystery that I am, a mystery that is still revealing itself. And no matter what is going on in life, that is available. I have sat in car parking lots, we say in America, just sitting in a car in a parking lot and looking around, and I was filled with this sense. You don't have to be in a garden. You don't have to be in front of beautiful art, calligraphy. You just, anywhere. If you're there, you will notice beauty and richness and mystery in that situation that our ego eyes cannot see. It's like, I would say it, I've never said it this way, but it's like the 4, when we find that deeper place of the heart that we can only get to from presence, it's like it opens all of our senses so that we see what's here, we hear what's here, we taste. And this will connect us with the 5. Very interesting. Yeah, and when we get caught up in all our beliefs about ourselves. We get caught up in the same stories over and over. We discourage ourselves. We convince ourselves we're not very nice people, right? And we do that with other people too. We have stories for everybody, really. And from that, those a very normal human place is not evil. It's just where most people are hanging out. But it's what causes us to forget this beautiful mystery. And when we forget that mystery, we forget everything that matters to us. You see. So we're turning the page and we're going to 5. 5 is the first of the 3 thinking types, the 5, the 6, and the 7. But I'm going to do what I did and go to the 6 first. But remember what I said about the 4, because it will go to the 5. So 6, you know, 6s are so funny. People who are 6s, they're often 6s always tell me like, oh, I'm the worst type. I wish I was another type. Oh, 6 is not so good. But that's just the type talking. That's not the truth. 6 is beautiful, very important, magnificent type to be a 6. So let me see if I can explain this. In the 9, we realize that we are soul, that we are consciousness. We're not just this idea of a piece of meat walking around in the world. We're something more than that, as all the great spiritual traditions teach us. In the 3, we realize, yes, I am that consciousness, but I am also this person in this world at this time, and this person has something to do, something to become, is given some holy work to perform, right? And the 6 is, and it's not just me, it's we. I am part of the expression of God. I am part of the Ummah, right? I am part of the beloved community. I am part of a network of human beings, and together, by our cooperation, our awareness of each other, we find out how we are to live here in this world and what we can create and how to navigate the difficulties that come to us. And this comes, interestingly, through our true mind. Now, it's very interesting, you know, we only come to our true mind when we have some connection already with our body and our heart. I don't know why it's that way, but it is. You cannot have a clear mind if you aren't present, at least somewhat, in your body and your breath and in your heart. When there's some connection there, the mind opens up and suddenly we can receive wisdom. We can be informed with by a bigger plan. And it's very interesting in 6 too, because sometimes I don't know the big plan and I don't need to, but I receive the wisdom for my part in the plan so that I can play my role. I can do what I need to do, which will be part of some bigger reality. I can feel that I'm part of a bigger reality. I can feel that I'm participating in something bigger than me. And that requires that I do my part. And, you know, 6s intuitively understand that. Even when they're kind of caught up in their ego and their anxieties, they still kind of have a feeling of that in the back of their minds. And all of us do in some respect. When we have this groundedness and the true mind comes on, a lot of the wisdom is seeing how to act, what to do, how to make decisions, not out of fear, not out of old programming, not out of those old stories we saw in the 4, but out of a fresh inspiration. And again, if I may speak in religious language, this comes from God. It's like the Greeks called it gnosis, direct knowing. It's the way we receive divine inspiration, you might say. And we learn things in life. We study things. We study the sacred books. We study scriptures. We study from teachers. All of it is to just help us get oriented to what's real and true and important. Helps us structure our lives so that we can meet what's important in us. Also, it's very interesting, this clear, open mind, when we have it, we're much less afraid. We're just seeing reality as it is, and there's a sober, clear quality, and we just see what we need to do, and we do it. It's funny, you know, a lot of times things are scarier when there's a danger. When you're thinking about the danger, that's scarier than actually being there with the danger. You ever notice that? A lot of times when we're actually in a tense situation, something in us knows what to do, is smarter than all the things our mind have been thinking. I would imagine, you know, in some of the challenges Egypt has gone through in the last, you know, 10, 20 years, you've had opportunities to experience that. You know, we've had them here in the United States too, and certainly I've had them in New York. But we have these moments where it's like you can't afford the luxury of your confusion. And something in you just knows what to do. That's the 6 in all of us. And I'm saying that you don't have to wait for a danger. You don't have to wait for a crisis. I think counterphobic 6 is a person who's learned that when they're in danger, they can have that freedom and clarity, so they keep putting themselves in danger as a way to get out of the thinking, the overthinking, right? Which isn't really thinking. It's just the mind chattering. So I'm saying we can practice everything we're learning. If we really come home to ourselves every day, and better yet, a few times a day, we come back, you can use your 5 calls to prayer, can be that. You can do it other times of the day, just as you remember. You need to go talk with your daughter. You remember, I don't want to talk like an idiot to my daughter. Let me collect myself before I say anything. And then you go in and you're ready. But I'm saying if you don't need to wait for extreme circumstances, and you don't have to wait for formal times, you can create for yourself ways to remember to keep coming home. And as you keep coming home, you'll find your heart and these heart resources too, and your mind will get clearer, and you'll see much better what to do for yourself and the people you love, which is what we all want, right? Very universal. That's what I love about the Enneagram. It's so universal. There's no one in the world that doesn't have some experience of what I'm talking about with you today. We all know what this is. No one ever helped us put together the dots. We had this experience and that experience and that experience. But when you suddenly see them all together, there are implications. And then the challenge is to trust enough to live into those implications. So we have our 5 and our 7. Okay, so 5. As we get grounded, come home to ourselves, and our heart comes on, our mind starts to work correctly, and we can actually think. Many people are kind. Not many people know how to think. Mostly what's going on in our head is not thinking. Can you imagine, a joke I've often said to people, can you imagine if we could put a computer screen on top of your head so everybody could see and hear what's going on in your mind? We would all die of embarrassment because there's just nonsense going on in there most of the time, right? That's everybody. We're all kind of a little crazier than we would like people to know. Yet we have a capacity to discover, to realize new things, to discover a truth that I did not know before. Many people, the closest they come to thinking is just repeating their opinions, but opinions actually become, at a certain stage, a barrier to thinking. Because when the opinion is there, I'm not curious anymore. So curiosity is way more helpful than having opinions, because curiosity has humility in it. One of my teachers and mentors and my good friend Hamid Ali has said many times, a question is the most sincere prayer because it has in it no arrogance of thinking that I know what's supposed to happen. So our curiosity, our openness also increases that courage and confidence we saw in the 6. If you see something strange and you're curious, it's a very different reaction than forming an opinion about it. It's good or it's bad. You see, it plays with a more evolved part of our brain than that reptile part. Can I eat it or not? It's, you know, we have more to us than that, and we don't use it very often, but we could. And it would definitely help us in navigating these times, and it supports the 6 part I already talked about. When we don't know that, we're filling our head with all kinds of nonsense. In the 5, we substitute memorization. We try to memorize everything. We try to remember everything. But a lot of what we remember are just opinions, facts that aren't relevant. And our mind gets crowded instead of clear. The other 5 caveat I have is, look, my dear friends, none of us is going to make it through this challenging time alone. We all need time alone to restore ourselves. Every soul needs quiet and private time. Even 2s need that, right? 2s? We all need some privacy and some time alone. That's important. So it's good to do that. But no one is going to get through this by not communicating, by not sharing their difficulties, by hiding behind my distance and my information. So it's just an encouragement that you will know more and understand more through contact with yourself and others. And it's going to make the journey of transitioning this difficult time much more easy. We all have a temptation to isolate when we feel overwhelmed. And you might need to here and there, but don't be careful of it becoming a habit. I speak from experience. I'm a 5. All right, 7. So important, 7. We're also not going to get through all this difficulty without hope, without positivity. And here's the thing. When I'm present and home in my body and breath, and I'm back with my heart, and I'm feeling that meaning, and I'm feeling that deep beauty of the 4, and I'm feeling the connection and heart of the 2, and all of it's coming together, I am happy for no reason. Not happy like, yeah, not like that, but just positive, bright, shining, awake, appreciative. I notice the good things in life. I don't skip over them. I'm not so much in my cloud of worry that I don't notice that my life is amazing in so many ways. Right? This becomes crucial because even in ordinary times, life has a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of loss, disappointment, hard, difficult times. You know, this positivity is not like thinking positive thoughts. See, the new age, many people don't really understand this. They're trying to fix it on an ego level, like a 7. A 7 in their ego is trying to think positive thoughts all the time to block out the bad thoughts. And that's how the 7 makes themselves crazy. Creates difficulties. In presence, the real positivity goes toward the painful thoughts, goes toward the loneliness, goes toward the lady who has tears on her face, who is sitting by the side of the road. The real positivity is an element of love, of kindness. So it is not afraid of pain. It's not afraid of difficulty. It's not afraid of sadness. It's there to help with those things. It's bigger than those things, right? I am always amazed, how the slightest gesture sometimes can change a person's day. And, you can be people who are struggling in different ways. I've learned over the years, if just being kind to the men and women who work at the airport, we're not going there these days, but it's a very stressful job working at the airport. Those poor men and women at the counter, and everyone's always yelling at them and complaining, and the plane is delayed because of weather, and people are screaming at the poor woman as if it was her fault, right? To just go up to somebody like that and be present with them, and to see the light in them, it can change their day and mine. Because it's like sharing the awareness that light is here. And the light does not abandon us. Even in the most difficult times, sometimes it's easier to see it. When you're with someone who's dying, when you're in the midst of a crisis, sometimes it's easier to see. Here in New York, I live in a place which had one of the worst experiences of COVID in the world. We had many, many, many deaths here. We're, like Cairo, we're a big city and we all live close together. So it was more difficult, but New Yorkers rose to the occasion and they did the right thing. They were wearing the mask, keeping the distance. Everybody was doing their part, the 6 element, right? Being responsible. But the other thing that was really fun, every night at 7:00, just like the time we began this conversation, at that time, the hospital workers come off their shift and everyone in New York City cheered. They made rattles and blew horns and sounds like New Year's, right? But for 3 minutes, all across the city, millions of people making that sound. And you could hear it, you could see people in the other buildings, but it was just a moment of sharing this joyful being a human being in this world and recognizing no matter what happens, you cannot stop this positive energy. That's the real 7. Yeah. So, of course, what's the risk here during this time? We might have a temptation to distract ourselves. We might have a temptation to act out. We might do some things that ordinarily we wouldn't do because we're bored, we're lonely, And this time can be a time of self-discovery. It can be a time where I really get to know myself and my loved ones in a very different way. Or it can become a time where I'm just distracting myself all the time because I don't trust that I can handle the real feelings. My suggestion is if we're coming back to our body and our heart, we can handle the real feelings and we will heal them if they need healing. We will transform them if they need transforming. Or more accurately, they will be transformed, they will be healed. And we will see what's needed. So, my invitation again is, which began at the beginning, is that each of these types, you can just think of it as a type, but it's also an invitation to a quality of the soul that we're all going to need and that we do need now. And also each one represents a way we can get lost and will, and not just in the style of our own type. All of it is up for grabs. So God willing, inshallah, we will help each other remember that we can come back home and receive the help we need inside and out. So I think maybe we can go to the questions now. I'm sure there'll be some. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ross. It was so inspiring, and it was really bringing tears. How everything is just there, and it's so easy, yet it's just to remember. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just we forget it. We forget such simple things.
It's
Thank you for reminding.
It's one of the traditional teachings that the error is not so much disobedience, but as forgetting. Like how strange we could forget these things that are the most important thing to us, what we really love, and yet we forget. How weird. But we do. So that's why we help each other. You know, that's why we have community. It helps us remember. If I had to do it by myself, it would be so difficult. I wish I could do it by myself. My 5 ego would like that very much, but I cannot.
So you would advise really more and more be in the community, address to each other, listen to some inspiring speeches, inspiring sessions. Yeah, it would be really great.
Yes.
Yes,
and just to, as I say, how can I explain this? When we are going through difficulties, we need to give our heart good food. Our heart grows, but like everything that grows, it has its kinds of food. So we need good nutrition. That doesn't mean it always has to be something positive. Sometimes we need to contemplate sorrow. That's just as important. All the prophets have talked about sorrow as an important part of the human existence. So, but you start to recognize what good food is and what isn't, what is kind of junk food for your heart. You know, so that can come through what we read, what we are watching on TV, etc., but also from the company we keep. You know, Gurdjieff used to say, we have personality friends, the people who, you know, we're friends on a personality level, and we need those. They're not bad or wrong. It's not like you fire them. A lot of my relatives are personality friends. But I think a lot of times with personality friends, a lot of the relationship is memories, talking about memories. Whereas essence friends are the people who bring good food to my heart, and they receive my good food too. We feed each other. So that becomes very helpful.
Thank you so much, Russ.
So much.
I mean, we can never have enough of you. It's if you just mentioned essence friends, and I think there are essence teachers, and you are definitely on top of them all. Thank you so much for everything you bring the world, you channel to the world, and it just, regardless of how much we just stay with you, even not listen, just looking into your heart, you touch our hearts. If I can ask something, I cannot raise the blue hand here because I'm the host, so I just intrude and ask, and then I will ask others.
After that, there are some
yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about if we can just very briefly, in the same way, discuss the resources of the 3 instincts?
Okay.
Where would the 3 instincts come into play here?
Yeah. Self-pres, yes, I addressed it indirectly, but we need to take care of ourselves. We don't know how long this is going to be. The governments keep telling us, oh, this date, and we don't know. And even when it might be clear here, it may not be clear over there, and over there affects what we can do here, right? So we don't know. So very important to care for yourself. Beware of bad habits that we do to make ourselves feel better, but that actually hurt us. To approach our finances and our home life with grounded presence instead of fear will make us make better decisions. And also to pay attention to those things, you know, that our money needs to be here for us for we don't know how long. So just very self-pres is about practicality, but practicality without fear. You know, we get most scared about those kind of things, right? The sexual instinct is keep yourself inspired. Keep yourself energized. Don't get lethargic and into heavy habits. Will weigh you down. Keep your fire burning. And there are many ways I tell people all the time, sexual instinct isn't just about the sex act. It's about our life force, our energy, our creative energy. And yeah, find creative things to do. Try some things you haven't done before. Use this opportunity to break out of some of your habits. We actually have support for that now. People will understand that you're doing something different. So that's something. And then social, yeah, I've already addressed it, but we could just make it more explicit. We need each other. And sometimes it's not always a group. It could just be me and my partner, me and my family, right? Humans need each other, and together it brings something more than we can have on our own. In Christianity, they talk a lot about, Prophet Jesus said that when two or more are gathered together in my name, meaning in the name of God, then I am there. And that's why we have, mosques and temples and churches and community, because something, even this gathering we're having, I was very skeptical that, we could accomplish much with electronics, in a few years ago, people said, do things online. I said, what can I do? But I really feel that when we're all, even around different parts of the world, coming together with a certain intention, a certain heart at the same time, you can feel it. I can feel you all. I can feel you all with me, even though we're not in the same room, even we're not even in the same part of the world, but I can feel you. And I don't think that's my imagination. It has a effect on my heart. Yeah.
So I think it has an incredible teaching to us all. How really after we've tried the online, we have connected. It just shows how entangled we are, how connected beyond time and space and just physical presence. There's something connecting us all.
Yes. Well, the rumors are true. We're all connected in God, right? Yes. We hear these rumors, all of the spiritual masters tell us, and we go, yeah, and go do it. And when we're with our spiritual friends, we like to talk about it, but sometimes we actually have the experience. We go, oh yeah, it's really true. It's so funny. We're so stubborn, humans.
Nice. Okay. There are some questions.
Okay.
I would like to read, and it's from type 4.
Okay.
We would have such a question. If he or she understood correctly, what is the thing that type 4 forgets when it faces difficulties? Would you please remind again?
Well, I think 4s don't recognize how strong they are. I don't think fours and sixes win for not seeing their power. I think fours have a huge impact on people. And our self-concept is that there's something wrong with us. We're not this, we're not that. You know, when nobody notices me, no one understands me, etc., etc. But actually, think of some of the feelings that you have dealt with. Think of some of the difficulties that you have survived. Think of how, if your friend was having a really difficult time or a big loss, don't you know you would be so powerful as a support to them because you can be with those things more than most people. So I just want Forrest to remember you have much more strength, your ability to be with the truth of your feelings. If you don't get lost in the feelings, but you're present with them, that is a real superpower. And you have so much to contribute. And so, and again, the secret is just for the four, coming back to the body, feeling, letting the body be like a mountain that supports the heart. Because otherwise, without that mountain underneath, the heart feels overwhelmed and then we get into all our problems. So just to keep coming back to the breath and the body and the sensation, support the heart and know how strong your heart is. Stronger than most.
Thank you very much. Yes, and before asking again question written, Ahmed Yusri, you have a hand up. Would you like to ask something?
Yes, please. Thank you, Natasha.
Hi.
Hi, Russ. It's very honorable to have you, and you seem like very in peace. This is the first time to see you in live, but I want to wish you first speedy recovery and very good results in your examination. But I feel like the incident of having a corona have brought something new to you. If you can share something, because I can feel of your words and your presence with lots of heart energy and peace. And also I want to remind you about the connection you mentioned between the 4 and 5, but I guess we didn't strict on it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good questions. I think if there's a difference, you know, life brings us opportunities and they either make us more hard or they open our heart. And it wasn't just the coronavirus. I was on the way to a heart attack last year in September. And I was in Paris and I knew I was in trouble. So I went straight to the hospital, though it was very late at night. And I was in the emergency room all night and into the morning. I was on a little gurney in the hospital for about 12 hours. And then admitted into the ICU, the intensive care unit. And then they put stents in my heart. But I didn't actually have a heart attack. Alhamdulillah. And but I came very close to death. And then again, this beginning of the year, I get infected. I didn't get a test, but I had every symptoms. And I was at a conference in San Francisco where I was speaking to 3,000 people. And so after I talked, everybody wanted to come up and say hello. So, and they were from all over the world. So probably that's when I got exposed. Yeah, everybody wanted to, I wasn't shaking hands, but you're in the middle of a crowd. Everybody's breathing on you. But anyway, I also think that years ago, Hamid told me, I asked him, how did you come to this state of consciousness that you seems easier for you now. And he said, he says, I did what my teachers told me. And I can say, I did what my teachers told me. You know, I practiced, I tried to turn my whole life into my work and to get clearer and clearer about what my heart really wanted for myself and others. When there are all these other, the world offers so many other possibilities and offered me various possibilities, but I feel I was guided toward whatever it is I'm doing, and that was, as it turns out, a blessing. Sometimes I think you can think funny things like it could have been a little easier, God, you know, but I know probably not, because I'm very stubborn. But that, you know, it's just many, many, many years and some life experiences, and some of it is absolutely blessings. I don't think it's we who decide these things. You know, they come from God. And as for your other question, what I was saying is that both the 4 and the 5 are about the clarification of the consciousness. In a sense, the heart is purified and the mind clarified. And there's a lot of spiritual tradition about that. Islam talks a lot about that. But we're looking at a process wherein one way you know that's happening, it's in both the 4 and the 5, is your senses become clearer. You see, you hear, you can listen, you can taste. When you listen to music, you don't just get the beat, you know, you hear the music. And it's like that. So I was saying the 4 and the 5 are a process of opening up and clarifying the means by which we experience this world and receive wisdom and guidance from the world. The
Beautiful.
Thank you
world
very
being
much.
Thank you
the
very
Thank you.
appearance of the mystery, you know, the outer
Yeah.
face. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. There is one question I will read, and then there's a hand. So again, question from a 4. When I stop one story, another one enters immediately automatically. How
Yeah.
can I stop that?
Well, you need to use your centers. First thing is find your breath. If you're finding a story, first you have to notice, I'm having a story. Then you have to find the breath and the sensation. And the more grounded you become in the body, the more you will, the story may continue or another story may come up, but you'll have some space from it. You won't be lost in the story. You know, our ego is like a mechanism. It's like a computer program. It just does what it does. The problem is not that I have this mechanism. I didn't decide to put it there, did you? It's just part of being a human being. The problem is the forgetting that there's more to me than that. And when I forget there's more to me than that, I just become the story. I forget there's more to me. I'm lost in the story. I believe the story. I live as if the story were me. That's the problem. But if you have a little more presence in your body, your mind gets clearer and you can discriminate. That's a story. Now, when we start doing this, it's not like the stories disappear all at once and then they don't come back. They're going to keep coming back for a long time because the mechanism just does what it does. I can tell you that one day elements of it will stop, but you almost won't even notice. It's just one day you'll realize you're in a situation where in the past a story probably would have come up and there's no story. And it's very quiet. It's not a fancy experience, but you go, oh, the story is gone. So it's a process, but they call it inner work because we, like all work, we have to keep doing it. You have to be persistent. And that persistence actually for the 4 is very good medicine. It cultivates will, and will develops first through the body, through the belly. So it's like training a little puppy. You know, when you have a little puppy in the house and they want to pee all over the house, and you have to keep bringing them back to newspaper or something, and you have to keep doing it. Eventually, the puppy understands and stops and goes to the paper by herself, right? And our ego is like that. It's like a little puppy. And so it doesn't help to be mean to it. It doesn't really learn from that. But if you are persistent and just keep showing the puppy, oh, that's a story. That's a story. That's a story. And every time you have a story, if you use the story to remind you to take a breath and to feel your feet on the ground, you're going to have a very different experience. And it will then help you instead of create a difficulty. Excuse me, someone's ringing my bell. I'll be right back.
جميل الراجل ده ما يتعوضش. Incredible.
Bringing me some delivery. I don't know what. Anyway, so I'm just saying that's part of the inner work that Gurdjieff taught, that you can take the habits that would usually cause you to become lost in your personality and your ego stuff. If you find your type correctly, you can turn those habits into something to help you remember to come home, because as we said, it's very difficult to remember. You turn them into an alarm clock.
Thank you.
And that's the way it can become your friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the answer. Marwa, okay. Marwa,
Marwa.
Yes, would you please ask?
Hi, Marwa.
Hi, Russ. It's a pleasure to be with you. Actually, you inspired me a lot with your book, The Wisdom of the Enneagram, and I'm so happy to attend such a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My question is, I'm type 1, and I was wondering, what do you suggest for me how to feed my heart and to get more serenity? Actually, I have another question, if you have time, is I have the curiosity to know more about your awakening experience, if you allow us to know it.
Okay, give me 1 second because somebody is at the door bringing me a delivery. I'll be right back, but I hold that and I will remember your question. Be right back.
على طبيعته خالص يا دكتور.
جميل 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 وبسيط خالص خالص،
بسيط
وبيتكلم من
جدا.
قلبه على طول. بيتكلم من قلبه على طول.
Look.
Wait. Oh my God. This is Marwa. You asked about spiritual awakening experiences. These flowers.
So funny. I don't even know who they came from. I'm going to have to see who sent me those flowers. Somebody. I don't know. Well, I'll find out. Anyway, to your question, ones. I think sometimes when I'm a one, I care about things being good so much. And I'm trying to bring things to goodness so much, I forget to notice that the goodness that is already here, especially in myself. I am so hard on myself. I try harder than anyone around me, probably. And I care so much. So I think a couple of things. One is when you breathe and come home to yourself, notice the goodness around you. Notice what is sacred in the moment. I don't know if you are a religious person or a spiritual person, but another way, it's like God's goodness and God's presence is always here. Always. Even in the sad times. So for you to come to your body and to look around you and see the goodness. Even if somebody's having a difficult day, there's a way I can see them, and maybe they're being cranky and in a bad mood or not very pleasant. I can see them and just see them as a struggling human being, and that there's goodness in them. And I know you know what that is. So to keep coming back to that will be the best heart food for you. Give yourself some time to enjoy beautiful things. If there's some music you really enjoy, some colors you like, you can get some nice flowers like me, just put some beauty around you. I think all the ones I know really love beauty, but they don't always take time to enjoy it. And when we do, our heart is more attuned and we're more able to bring what we really want to bring to the world, what we care about. And the last thing I would say is kind of a two-way street. Let the people that you love know that you love them more. Just tell them. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just to say your appreciation of people. Because you do. It's easy when we get frustrated with people, we tell them that. But we don't always say, I really appreciate what you did. Thank you. We don't always say, that was beautiful. And because you're a one, when people get that from you, it will really mean something to them because they know you are honest. Right? And the other thing is, take it in when people say nice things to you. Sometimes when we're a one, even my husband or my wife, or they come in and they say, oh, you did such a wonderful job. Well, yeah, but let me get this done. And we don't even take it in. And I said that they were giving me a gift, and I just went, so just to notice and be kind to myself. If I see myself doing that, be kind. I was trained to do that, but I don't have to go there. And to just say, darling, thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy you see me. Then we get the joy of sharing our care with each other, which is a big thing for the one. Okay?
Beautiful,
Wow.
beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yes, it touches my heart very deeply. I thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The next question would be from body type. And the question is, how to get anger out of the body?
How to get anger out of the body. I don't think we need to get it out. I think it needs to go through. Anger is like a process. It's like digestion. If I eat food and then I try to get it out, that's not good. We vomit, right? That's not, you don't want that. You want the food to go through so that it can do what it's there to do. Anger has a purpose. All of the prophets showed anger at times. All of them. It's not like, anger is not a sin. But when we're not present with anger, it can make us do reckless things. The way I talk about it, the 8, 9, and 1 each represent what we do with anger when we're not present with it. The 8 acts it out. I raise my voice. I stomp around. I throw something. I get into a fight. The anger becomes an action. The 9, I just bury it. I don't have it. I dissociate. I don't have anger. I'm a spiritual person. Right. I'm not angry. What? Yeah. You're saying I haven't talked to you in 5 years? It can't be that long. And then the 1, I try to repress it, control it. I'm not really angry with you, but just let me tell you one more time how to fix that printer and why what you're doing keeps messing it up. I'm not angry. So we all have our little tricks. And every type, no matter what type we are, we're going to do some combination of those, or we presence anger. When you presence anger, it only lasts a few seconds. It becomes a heat. You can feel it in your body as heat. And maybe you feel it in your arms and legs. Many times you can feel it in your belly. Sometimes it's in your neck and shoulders. If we hold anger, then our neck and shoulders and our jaw get very tense. But you relax the body, you breathe, and you feel it. You feel the anger as an energy, not what it makes you think about. Your attention is on the direct experience of it in your body. And if you do that, it will give you the energy to have a voice, to say clearly that you don't like something or don't want something, to say something is not okay with you. And it becomes an empowerment. And then you're done. And the anger goes through you and it comes out. When we don't deal with our anger, when we're acting it out, which is not getting rid of it, because the more we act out, the more we continue to act out. It's like an addiction. The more we suppress it and contract it or dissociate from it, it just stays rattling around inside us like a poison. And then it's not good. And it accumulates. So when you say get it out, I think that comes from the fact that there are therapies that are trying to deal with people who have not dealt well with their anger for many years. And so there's like this backlog, this accumulation of old material that needs to get released. But I still think that even then, if I've seen people banging on pillows and yelling and everything, that can be good if your anger has been suppressed and you need to bring it up. That's very useful. But if you do that and you're not present, it will just come back, in my experience. So my suggestion is it's not really about getting it out of me. It's letting it flow through as it needs to and not get stuck. That's how I think of it.
Okay, to be wise about it. Thank you very much. If you don't mind, we have a little bit more questions.
Sure, we can do a couple more. Sure.
Okay, Riham, I see your hand.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hi. I hope everything is okay. I just have a quick question. When it comes to the inner work, I go into cycles of being judgmental of how well I'm doing the work, how full-heartedly I'm doing the work, how full-mindedly I'm doing the work. And then I get into another cycle of judgment of like my inner work. And I know that I need to understand that it's a journey and it's not the destination, but I can't help but always keep judging myself and feeling overwhelmed with what I'm asking myself to do to be on the right path and to do the right thing and to be and to fully and wholeheartedly do the inner work. So how do I get out of that loop?
There's a couple things in what you're saying. One of them is that I think we underestimate that this is hard. It's very difficult to do the work. It's not an easy thing. If it were easy, many people would be doing it, and really only a few are doing it. There's a lot of people talking about spirituality or religion, but only a few really trying to live God's laws. Only a few. And so it's difficult. So we should just understand, first off, don't make it harder because it's already very difficult. You know, the very fact that you want to should be a cause for celebration. Many people don't even realize that what they're missing. Many people don't realize they're going to come to their end of their life and go, where did it go? That they missed their life. So you are not one of those. You realize, you care. And I also think that, and this is a big topic, so I can't really just answer it in a few minutes here. We all need to learn to work with our inner critic, our super ego. I don't care how good our teachers are or our teachings. It is 100% guaranteed that the most sublime spiritual ideas will be grabbed by the inner critic and used against us. Every human being, we have this challenge. It's part of our ego structure. The superego is there when we're little kids. The inner critic. It's when we were little children, we were looking at our family and figuring out how to make sure we could get love and stay out of trouble and guarantee that we would get safety, protection, and attention. But see, those programs get set very early and they don't change. And the inner critic doesn't work by kindness. It doesn't understand kindness. It doesn't really, it purports to be the voice of God, but it doesn't understand God and cannot. The downfall of all religious traditions is that little by little inner critic takes over until there's not much of the love that came from the prophets left, and there's a whole lot of meanness everywhere, all religions, all around the world. That's because human beings are involved, and human beings have inner critic. And it's part of our work to understand that. And we each get ways to learn how to get space from our inner critic. And everybody's different that way. I have friends, just if they get grounded in breath, that is enough. Some, they feel that there's always anger in the inner critic, but you reclaim it and you get angry at the inner critic. Like, why are you telling me these terrible things right now? That's not fair. Get out of here. You know, and have that feeling. Other time, some people use humor. They have a laugh, like, oh my God, you're telling me that old story again? Or they make the voice, sometimes the inner critic's a voice, they turn it into like a cartoon voice. It's the other thing I'll tell you about it is hard to work with the inner critic because if to defy it feels like betraying your parents. It isn't betraying your parents. Your parents don't want you going around tortured by this crazy voice in your head. I'm quite sure they would not choose that for you. But it feels that way because it was formed when we were little kids guessing what our parents expected. So every time we try to challenge it, part of us doesn't want to. But really, I'm sure if your parents were alive and we asked them, what do they want for you? They want you to be happy. They want you to have a good family. They want you to have success in life. They don't want you to be tortured. So, you know, we have to recognize I don't want to be mean to it. There's no one there. There's no person. It's a voice in your head. It's an old program running in your brain. You can't be mean to it. There's no one there to be mean to. But that's how powerful the hypnosis of these patterns is. It's a great example, really. When we're under the spell of our ego, all of this seems very real. But you get a little more present. You go, what the hell was that? What was I thinking? Why was I saying that to myself? You realize it's very cruel. We say things to ourselves that if we saw someone saying that to one of our friends or even to a stranger, we'd be very angry with that person. So we need to understand we have many cruel voices in our heads. Some of them are from ourselves, some from our family, some of them from many generations. We human beings are walking around with centuries and centuries of bad programs running around in our head from all the traumas and terrible experiences humans have gone through. But this is one way we're helping humanity. When I can not have that running in my head, that's a step in the right direction, because then I'm not going to pass it on to other people. You see? And that's another thing that helps me do it. So I don't want to pass this on to anyone. Ick. Stops here. Enough.
Thank you so much. Very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And just quick 2 last questions, if we may. From a type 1. How can type 1 make the distinction of its own sense of right and wrong and what society dictates?
I think ones do come to their own sense of right and wrong, despite what society dictates. Most ones have their own code of rules, and it's usually stricter than society's rules. You know, And it starts with my family. You know, my family has its rules and I have my rules, and mine are usually more strict than my family's. I think that what we're after, though, and I think what ones are really looking for is wisdom. And wisdom is not rules. Rules help you come to wisdom, but it's also wisdom to know when the rule is in the way of what needs to happen. I might have a rule. There's a lot of Sufi stories about that. There's a lot of Buddhist stories about that, wisdom stories, where there's the sensible thing that the rules dictate, but the wise person knew they needed to do something else. All the stories of the prophets, full of tales like that, where at first it seems crazy what they're doing, but then you understand, because they were in that moment receptive, like I keep saying, and some deeper wisdom came to them that wasn't just their rules. You know, we're invited. Rules are like a platform, like we're trying to get to a high place on the mountain. So sometimes you have to create like a little platform to help you get up, but then you don't stay on the platform or you never go up the mountain. It's there to help you. And you have to also, it's wisdom to know when you need that and when you have to be receptive to something else. And you see, the inner critic I was just talking about thinks the only other possibility than not doing the rules is chaos, evil, and badness, right? But that's not true. That's how the inner critic stays in power. And you know, the inner critic's there until we don't need it. And as we mature spiritually, we need it less and less. And we can understand it for what it was, how it helped us, but we don't want it running our adult lives anymore in the same way.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. I hope ones appreciated it. And the last question for today, and it's coming from type 3s. So it will be like, of course, they are multifunctional. That's why it will be a double question in one. How can I know what's my mission? It's, again, a person is identifying it from the speech, from the session. And how can a mature 3 stop being busy?
Okay. Well, I always tell the 3s, don't worry. You're always going to be a doer. It's not like you're going to wake up one day and want to just be in a hammock for the rest of your life. You might have a fantasy of that sometimes when you have been doing too much work. You might, and then you want to just go and watch TV or something, and that's normal. But it's not so much about being busy or not busy. It's about the quality of my attention in what I'm doing. So one thing I suggest for 3s as a practice is functioning a little bit slower than my habit. Just a little bit. Talking, walking, writing, not because slower is better, but because by slowing down a little bit, I have to be more present to what I'm doing. Do you ever notice when you're talking really fast, you're just talking the way you always talk with people, it's kind of more coming from your personality. You're not even really paying attention to what you're saying. And you're just, and you know, this is what we really got to do. Or you let every word land. You are making food and you're there delicately, attentively, mindfully with everything you're doing. And that's what changes everything. You know, as a 3, it's part of your joy to get stuff done. And we're glad you do that. And it's great. Human beings are here to do stuff. So you're not wrong. It's just the quality of heart and attention in what you're doing. And sometimes just slowing down a little bit helps that. So the other part of that question was, how do I find my purpose? Gee whiz. I think we have many purposes in life, not just one. And as I said, it helps me to remember it's not always a job description. And I always find that when I'm more present, I feel back on track. You ever have that feeling? It's like you felt kind of lost and disoriented. You're not quite sure what you're doing. Is this the right thing? I don't know. And all that doubt from the 6 comes in. And then, but you just get present. Sometimes, you know, I've done this in Egypt. I do it here in New York too, but where I'm just sitting someplace, I have a nice cup of chai. I'm sitting looking out at the street and people going by, and I just let myself come to it. And suddenly I feel back on track. I'm ready for my day. I'm ready for the next thing. And we kind of start to understand that by attending to what I need to attend to now, the next thing opens up, and then the next thing and the next thing. And what I need to understand gets revealed as I go. And as for like bigger goals and studying and things like that, I just say be prepared to be surprised. Because really, all of the most amazing things that come to us, and this is true for me, maybe for you too, were surprises. And they came through people, and they came through relationships. They came through a conversation, something I hadn't even thought about or considered. And then I meet somebody and, I want to talk with this person more. Oh, I want to go do that. Oh, I got this offer. I want to accept that offer. And mostly life is like that. You know, we what we're interested in, and this is the other part, notice what lights up your heart. Notice what makes you feel more alive, what brings you more energy instead of just taking your energy. And there's some things we're doing in life because somebody told us we should, and we'll be lovable, we'll be famous, or we'll be rich if we do those things. But those things, if they don't light up our heart, they're going to drain us. In some cases, it can kill us. Many dead celebrities from this. And if you're noticing what lights up your heart, you're developing the skills and abilities you need so that you'll be ready when those opportunities come, and they will be right. As an example, you know, I didn't have any plan to be an Enneagram teacher. There was no such job. There was no, if I went to my school, you know, we have in schools, I'm sure you have this in Egypt, like a counselor who gives you advice about what you can do in your life, you know, and I went to but my guidance counselor did not have Enneagram teacher as one of the choices. And I thought I was going to be a musician. I was a guitar player and a musician, and I sang, and I had also studied science. So surely I will be a doctor or a scientist, or I'll be a musician. Those are the choices. No. What actually came to me came over time through me cultivating things. I was studying the Gurdjieff work and then working with Hamid, and I was studying meditation and practice and prayer for a long time before I ever got the idea to teach. And even then, it was just Don Riso invited me to work as his assistant. It wasn't like, I'm going to make you into a teacher. That just, all these things just came. So I just say, relax about that part. Let God invite you. Let the plan be revealed, and enjoy the surprises on the way, and notice what lights up your heart, and study and learn about those things that bring you joy and energy, and you will be ready when those surprises come. That's what I would say.
Beautiful. This is really beautiful. Thank you so much. I think everybody will agree with me. That was very inspiring today. And it somehow was coming. Me as type 6, it was really coming in my head. At least I started breathing with your speech today. Yes, especially feeling the body. I like, this just was like a lullaby kind of for this. I loved it. Thank you so much. I would invite, please, everybody for a second. When Russ is here, open your cameras and we will take a shot, a camera shot. Yes, Khalid, please help me with that.
Yes.
Yeah,
everyone open the cameras, please. Let's take a picture, collective picture with Russ.
Okay.
Everyone smile. Anyone else opening? Yes. Yes. Anyone else? One.
Done?
Done. Let's have just another one. Come on. Smile, everyone. Okay.
Good.
Thank you, Russ.
Nice.
Thank you so,
Thank
so
Okay,
you.
we
much.
can open. Everybody unmute yourself. You can say bye.
Thank you
can
very
say
much,
thanks.
Ross.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Wow,
so
hi.
much.
So good to see you
Thank you
all.
very
I
much,
hope I
Russ.
can come to Egypt
Lots of
soon.
love.
I miss,
Appreciated.
Lots of love
miss
and
my
hugs.
So
friends.
much, Russ.
Thank you
Thank you
soon.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
Wish you
so
best.
much.
Glad to
Wish
meet
you the best, Russ.
Thank you so much. I take
you.
that
Wishing
in.
you all the health.
Best
Thank
of luck
you.
for the test today. Hopefully everything's great.
It
Thank
was
you.
amazing. Thank you so much.
Get well
Enjoy your
soon,
day. Have a good
Russ.
day.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
thank you
Much,
all.
Russ.
And
Thank
thank you
you.
all
Bye.
for
Bye.
participating.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.